The radical power of softness, redefining strength in a world that demands everything. I want to start today with a confession. For most of my life, I believed strength meant never breaking, never bending, never showing the weight of what I carried. Perhaps you've believed this too. But what if everything we've been taught about strength is incomplete? What if our power lies not in how much we can bear, but in our courage to be vulnerable? Recently, I had the profound privilege of interviewing Yashica Washington, whose revolutionary work with Black professionals and entrepreneurs has fundamentally transformed how I understand the relationship between vulnerability and power. Yashika isn't just a thought leader, she's a paradigm shifter who has helped thousands reclaim their humanity in spaces that routinely demand their dehumanization. Her insights have sparked movements, transformed organizations, and literally saved lives by giving people permission to be fully human in a world that often treats them as machines. The world demands superhuman strength from so many of us. It expects us to weather storms without shelter, to climb mountains without rest, to shine without ever acknowledging our shadows. This expectation isn't just unrealistic, it's destroying us. Think about it. How many times have you swallowed your truth to appear capable? How often have you pushed through exhaustion because stopping felt like failure? How frequently have you said, I'm fine when you were anything but? We've normalized this performance of invulnerability. We've glorified the grind. We celebrate those who sacrifice everything, their rest, their joy, their wholeness at the altar of achievement. But at what cost? The cost is our humanity, our authenticity, our capacity to connect deeply with others and ourselves. The cost is innovation that comes from admitting we don't have all the answers. The cost is sustainable success that flourishes when we honor our limitations instead of fighting them. Consider Itiashia Turner's story. As a Black executive in a high pressure corporate environment, she embodied exactly what the system demanded: superhuman resilience, unwavering strength, constant availability. She led teams through impossible deadlines and organizational chaos, all while maintaining a flawless exterior that revealed nothing of her internal struggles. I thought strength meant never letting them see me sweat, she told me once. I'd go to the bathroom to cry, then fix my makeup and return to meetings as if nothing had happened. The result? She approached burnout with terrifying speed. The belief that her worth was tied to her suffering had become so internalized that rest felt like failure. Achievement without exhaustion seemed impossible. One Tuesday morning, Itiashia couldn't get out of bed. Her body had simply refused to continue the charade. That's when she made a decision that felt counterintuitive, even dangerous. She chose radical transparency. She returned to work and did something unprecedented. She told the truth. She spoke openly with her team about her struggles. She implemented regular wellness check ins, not just performance reviews. She sought community support rather than isolating herself in the myth of self sufficiency. What happened next challenges everything we've been taught about leadership. Trust deepened, team morale improved, productivity actually increased, not because people worked more hours, but because they worked with more presence, more creativity, more humanity. One team member later told her, watching you prioritize your well being gave me permission to prioritize mine. I stopped working through lunch. I started therapy. I'm a better employee because I'm a healthier human. Irashia's methods have since been adopted by other leaders seeking sustainable success. She sparked conversations industry wide about balancing ambition with humanity. all because she dared to redefine strength. This isn't just a Tiesha story, it's a pattern I've seen repeated across sectors, communities, and experiences. It's what Yashica Washington has observed throughout her work, that vulnerability, far from undermining our power, becomes its foundation. But vulnerability alone isn't enough. We need community to catch us when we dare to be soft in a world that demands hardness. Kia's journey illustrates this beautifully. As a Black woman founder, she navigated systemic barriers that many entrepreneurs face: limited access to capital, exclusion from traditional business networks, pressure to project constant confidence despite uncertainty. For years, she armored up, presenting a flawless facade of success while struggling privately. The entrepreneurial narrative told her to hustle harder, sleep less, want more. It whispered that asking for help meant inadequacy. I thought I had to be a one woman army, she reflected. I was dying inside, but my Instagram looked fantastic. Isolation nearly cost her everything: her business, her health, her vision. The turning point came when she realized that letting go, allowing herself space for rest and others space for contribution, wasn't weakness but wisdom. She began building community driven solutions, forming alliances with other entrepreneurs facing similar challenges. She spoke openly about both successes and setbacks on public platforms. She broke down the stigma around asking for help. The result wasn't failure, it was flourishing. Her vulnerability catalyzed new models of collaboration over competition within local business ecosystems. Her presence inspired more founders to lead with authenticity instead of perfectionism. She helped shift cultural norms around leadership expectations in Black entrepreneurship circles. This is the power of community coupled with vulnerability. It transforms not just individual experience, but collective culture. Yet, even with vulnerability and community, something else is needed for true transformation: inner alignment. This is where healing becomes not just personal, but revolutionary. Tawana Bain's story demonstrates this principle powerfully. As a creative leader, she struggled against industry bias that demanded constant proof of worth while trying not to lose sight of her purpose. Early in her career, she attempted to fit into externally defined molds, measuring success by others' metrics rather than her own fulfillment. I was chasing approval that kept moving, she said. No achievement was ever enough because I was trying to fill a hole that external validation couldn't fill. The shift began when she focused on cultivating self recognition practices, journaling achievements, setting boundaries against toxic work cultures, creating safe spaces where peers could share openly without judgment. She launched initiatives supporting mental health awareness, tailored specifically for Black professionals. What emerged wasn't just personal clarity, but broader influence. Her example inspired the adoption of wellness centered leadership models across multiple industries. By prioritizing her own healing and alignment, she created ripples that reached far beyond her individual experience. This is what Yashica Washington emphasizes so powerfully. Transformation begins internally, with mindset shifts towards self trust, but its impact extends outward in ways we can barely imagine. These stories reveal a profound truth. The journey from surviving to thriving requires vulnerability, community, and healing. It demands that we question narratives about strength that have never served us. It invites us to reimagine power not as dominance or endurance, but as authenticity and connection. So, what might this look like in your life? What would change if you embraced vulnerability as strength, if you sought community instead of isolation, if you prioritize healing over hustle, perhaps you'd finally share that idea you've been holding back. Perhaps you'd ask for help with that project instead of drowning silently. Perhaps you'd take that mental health day without fabricating a more acceptable excuse. Small acts of softness create space for profound transformation. They allow us to be human in environments that often demand we be machines. They invite others to do the same. I challenge you, especially if you've felt pressured always to be strong, to experiment with one small act of softness this week. Share honestly about something challenging at work. Ask someone you trust for support. Take intentional time just to rest without guilt. Notice what shifts inside when you allow yourself permission simply to be, not just to perform. Because here's what I've learned from Yashica Washington's powerful insights: strength isn't about how much weight you can carry, it's about knowing when to put the weight down. It's not about how long you can go without breaking, it's about how honestly you can acknowledge your cracks and care for them. True power isn't found in perfection, but in authenticity, not in isolation, but in connection, not in endless doing, but in intentional being. And softness, it isn't weakness, it's revolution. It's saying, I refuse to be defined solely by my productivity. It's declaring my humanity is not negotiable. It's affirming I am worthy of rest, of joy, of wholeness, not because of what I achieve, but because of who I am. As we leave this space today, I want you to consider a radical possibility. What if the strength you've been seeking isn't found in becoming more impenetrable, but in daring to be more permeable? What if power isn't about conquest, but about connection? The world will continue to demand everything from you. It will tell you that rest is lazy, that vulnerability is weak, that asking for help is failure. It will insist that your worth is measured by your output, your resilience by your silence, your success by your sacrifice. I'm asking you to defy those demands, to practice revolutionary softness in small, brave ways every day, to build communities where vulnerability is valued, to prioritize healing as an act of resistance. Because when we collectively redefine strength, when we honor softness as power, we don't just transform ourselves. We transform the systems that have demanded our dehumanization. We create new possibilities, not just for how we work, but for how we live, love, and lead. The most radical act in a world that demands everything is to offer your authentic self instead. Because in the end, softness isn't the absence of strength, it's strength in its most honest, sustainable, and revolutionary form.